November 7, 1861. A man is about to die. 3 times. In 23 minutes. And survive them all. Against all known mathematical odds. Ulysses S. Grant. Failed former leather salesman. Notorious drunk. The guy everyone thought was a joke. And in less than half an hour. He will prove he is indestructible. But here's the insane detail, those 23 minutes weren't planned. They were pure chaos. A disaster that became a legend. And changed the course of the Civil War. Because sometimes, you don't have to win. You just have to refuse to die. Context, November 1861. The Union is losing the Civil War. Everyone knows it. Bull Run was a massacre. Federal soldiers became a joke. And Grant? Grant is the general no one takes seriously. Why? Because 3 years earlier, he was forced out of the army. Reason, alcoholism. He returned inland. Selling his father's leather. Failing at that too. And when the war started, he rejoined the army because he had nothing else. November 7th. Grant is at Belmont, Missouri. A tiny village on the banks of the Mississippi. But across the river? Columbus, Kentucky. A Confederate fortress. 10,000 soldiers. 154 cannons pointed at him. And Grant just did something suicidal. He attacked the Confederate camp at Belmont. With 2,500 men. Against 7,000. No planned escape route. And now? He's surrounded. What happens in the next 23 minutes should have killed him. 3 times. But it didn't. And the universe could never kill Ulysses S. Grant again. Let me show you the exact scene of the first time Grant should have died. Morning. Indian summer sun. Grant riding at the front of the troops. Blue officer's coat. Sword at his waist. Trimmed beard. Cold eyes. And suddenly, bam! Musket shot. Too close. His horse? Falls. Dead instantly. Grant? Flies to the ground. Dust explodes. Soldiers scream, the general is down. And here's the detail no one tells you. His saddle? An expensive, imported saddle. It was destroyed along with the horse. Grant stands up. Brushes off the dust. And without saying a single word. Takes another officer's horse. Mounts up. And returns to the front line. As if nothing happened. Captain William Hillier, who lent the horse, later described, he didn't tremble. He didn't hesitate. It was as if bullets couldn't touch him. As if he knew he wouldn't die. Probability of surviving a musket shot from less than 50 meters? 40%. Grant survived. But that was just the beginning. Because 20 minutes later, he would face something even worse, 7,000 reinforced Confederates. Surrounding him. Cutting off his only exit. Here is where things get insane. Grant won the first part of the battle. His men took the Confederate camp. And then, they made the dumbest mistake possible. Layer 1, the chaos, Union soldiers stopped fighting. They started looting. Stealing tents. Food. Meanwhile, Confederates fleeing? Running across the river. Coming back with 5,000 reinforcements. And cutting the road between Grant and the ships. The only escape route. Layer 2, the wake-up call. Grant sees smoke rising to the north. Plumes of smoke over the trees. He knows what that means, Confederate reinforcements arriving. And suddenly, cannons from Columbus, across the river, start firing on the camp. 24-pound shells. Exploding inside the camp. Union soldiers panic. Throwing away rifles. Running. And Grant? Grant shouts, "Stop. We cut our way in. We can cut our way out." Layer 3, the universal. Here's the brutal truth. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing the math, realizing you're going to die, and deciding to fight anyway. Grant's situation, 2,500 men. Surrounded by 7,000. Under heavy artillery fire. Escape route cut. Chance of survival? Confederate officers estimated, 10%. But Grant had one advantage, he studied the Confederate general, Pillow, in the Mexican War. And knew, Pillow hesitates. Always hesitates. And hesitation is death in battle. So Grant did the impossible. He organized a fighting retreat. And in the next 15 minutes, he died twice more. But not really. Now comes the craziest part. The evacuation. The clock is running. Minute 0 to 8, Grant orders, burn everything. Confederate tents ablaze. Smoke covering the field. Union soldiers running through the woods back to the ships. Confederates pursuing. The sound? Muskets firing. Screams. And Grant? Riding back and forth. Picking up the wounded. Refusing to leave anyone behind. Minute 8 to 15, The Union column reaches the embarkation point. But there's a problem: the 5 companies Grant left guarding the ships? They panicked. They already boarded. They already left downriver. Grant is alone on the bank. Last man. Confederates 200 meters away. And the ships? They cut the ropes. Starting to float. Death number 2, that didn't happen. No one fired. Why? We'll never know. But Grant was in their sights. And no one pulled the trigger. Death number 3, that almost happened. Grant spurred his horse, rode down the steep bank, the horse sliding in the mud, and leapt across a wooden plank straight onto the deck of the last ship. The plank was 30 centimeters, 1 foot, wide. If the horse missed? Horse, Grant, and plank falling into the Mississippi. Certain drowning. But no. The horse hit it. And Grant boarded. Death #3B, the most insane. Grant went into the captain's cabin. Lay down on a sofa. For 30 seconds. First breath in hours. And then, a Confederate bullet went through the cabin. Cut the sofa. Exactly where his head was 2 seconds earlier. 23 minutes. 3 impossible deaths. 0 scratches. And Grant smoking a cigar peacefully as the ship steamed up the Mississippi. Now let me show you why Belmont changed everything. Even though it was technically a draw, psychological impact, Grant proved something crucial: Union soldiers could fight. They could beat Confederates hand to hand. Until that day, everyone thought Southerners were better soldiers. Belmont destroyed that myth. A captured Confederate soldier told a Union prisoner, "You aren't like those Yankees from the East. You're giants. We never saw such big men." Fear turned into respect. Impact on Lincoln. Grant wrote a letter to Congressman Elihu Washburn before the battle, describing the plan. After the battle, Washburn sent it to Lincoln with a note: "You need to meet this Grant." It was the first time Lincoln heard the name. And he thought, this guy fights. Doesn't give up. I need him. Impact on the war. 3 months later, Grant captures Fort Donelson, the Union's first major victory. 6 months later, Shiloh. A year later, Vicksburg. And in 1865, Appomattox. Grant won the war. You know what Grant said years later about Belmont? "I learned that refusing to admit defeat is the most important thing a general can do." He applied that in every battle until Lee surrendered. Military leaders at West Point still study Belmont. Not for the tactics, but for the mindset. When everything goes wrong, and it will, you stay calm and improvise. Grant dying of throat cancer. Writing his memoirs. He gets to the chapter on Belmont. And writes, "The contest satisfied me that the enemy were about as much afraid of us as we were of them. And the one who admitted the fear first loses." A man who survived 3 impossible deaths in 23 minutes wrote that. And you believe him. Because he proved it. Here is the secret Grant discovered at Belmont: invincibility is not being unable to die. It's refusing to accept that you will. It's as simple, and as difficult, as that. What do you take from this? 1. Courage is contagious. A calm leader creates a calm army. 2. Always improvise. Grant had no plan B. He invented one in the middle of the chaos. Adaptation wins wars. 3. Refuse the defeat narrative. Grant called Belmont a victory when everyone said it was a defeat. And that belief became reality. Ulysses S. Grant had every reason to give up. 3 chances to die. But he looked at death 3 times. And said, "Not today." The next time you face the impossible, a failing project, a stalled career, a dying dream, remember the man who survived 3 deaths in 23 minutes. And ask, if Grant can refuse to die 3 times, can I refuse to quit once? If this story changed your perspective on failure, leave a like. And tell me, what was the time you should have given up, but didn't? I want to know in the comments.